And we are live. Happy Thursday night, Sober Nation. Hey, Veronica.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Good.
Well, I'm glad you're back. You were gone last week,
I
but
know.
we are here again. What are we talking about tonight?
Well, tonight we decided to take it back to basics yet again and talk about. So, the reason why we come up with some topics, usually we're inspired either by the posts that are being posted on the Sober Nation page or stuff that we're seeing in other groups that we're in, right? Like we're in other groups about recovery, sobriety, and people just trying to support one another through getting sober. And I see time and time after time that there are people who will say, okay, this is my last day. I'm going to detox at home, which depending on your substance of choice, that's very dangerous. And unfortunately, most of the posts that I have been seeing that talk about people wanting to detox at home are people who are detoxing from alcohol, which we do not recommend. It could be very, very dangerous for someone to detox at home by themselves from alcohol. So usually these individuals, are desperate. They're looking for help. They finally found a Facebook community that understands, what it's like to drink, to want to stop. And, they'll try for a few days and then they'll come back in the group and they say, I'm sorry, like I just, I had to drink. Why do I do this to myself? And over again, and different people from different backgrounds, of course, everyone is supportive, tries to give them suggestions, tell them what to do. And for some reason, they just seem to get it. And, I can only imagine what that person feels like in that moment, because then they start to feel like it's them, that there's something wrong with them, that they can't overcome, drinking, that they can't put the beer or the substances down. But it's so much more than that. There's so many layers to it. So I wanted to talk about, what can we say to people who can't stay sober, who are trying but fail time after time again. And, as most topics, we like to ask you guys first, what do you think? What have you done? What's your advice for somebody in that predicament? Because we have all been there, right? Like Tori and I can sit here and talk about what worked for us, but we really want you guys to participate in these conversations. And because I can't tell you how many times like we've read stuff and it's like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. Or so-and-so would come in and comment. And it's like, that's such a great point. I completely forgot about that. So I think the best way to discuss a topic is to get everybody involved, to have everybody join and throw their ideas. So thank you to everybody who participated in the poll. We had over 500 responses. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to them all, but we did print some out. I mean, we have a few pages here. Wow. I don't know that we'll even get through all of these, but these are some of the ones that we pulled. Tori, what do you have to say? What do you have to say about this topic?
I mean, I just think that, and like I myself have tried to do this over and over and over again. And when you are alone, or if you're at home by yourself, or just even in your head, like if you're at a facility or something, like it can be so daunting and you can feel just like a failure. And the thing is, like, you're not the only one that's gone through this. There's so many people, and I'm sure many people in the comments can attest to this, that like it took them a couple tries. I mean, hopefully it doesn't have to, but hopefully, we're sober now, right? But it can just be so daunting and you can feel so hopeless after a while. But the good thing is like that you're not. So I want to go to the comments real quick. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. So you want to say hi to Crescentia, Geraldine. They show up for us every week and we so appreciate you. Let's see. Augustine is also with us. Hi, Augustine. How are you? Okay. Rebecca, welcome. Claire and Chuck is here.
Ken. Oh, we love Chuck. He's always here.
We have Karen Johnson. Hi. She's also from Florida. We're in Florida, Karen. Ken is with us. He's from Rochester, New York. And
Christopher, the dynamic duo.
Yeah. Wendy is also here. We're so glad you could make it. Yeah, and I saw already in some of, I can't remember who commented, but the comment said, I wish I could give everyone the gift of desperation. And I think desperation has something to do with it, being that desperate of just wanting to be done. But then there's other people that don't get there and they still get sober, that don't have that feeling and still just manage to get it together. And they never had to be as desperate as some of us, so that's why this thing is so complex and so many layers to it.
Right. And you don't necessarily have to hit a bottom to
That too.
start building back up. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, you know, especially, and I guess this is easier as you're raising someone else. Like once someone is raised, there's little someone can do to erase the past or to, you know, deal with the past. But, you know, when you're raising someone, I guess like for me, I would hope to raise that kid with hopefully like not having to let that child like hit bottom, but intervene way before, and to have these discussions of like, this is what's going to happen when you get older, and this is what's going to happen with you. And I know there's a lot of you who are parents in recovery who know way more about this than I do, but yeah, I think interventions are really important, and right when there's a problem. One of the things that I don't like is when people think someone's using and they talk about the person using and don't address the person directly, right? Like when I've had my friends and I've had concerns about them, I go to them and I'm like, what is going on? Like, don't get mad at me, but you look high. Like, what's happening? Right. You know, and either the person will develop a resentment. What?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, I've been in circles and situations where someone's like, oh yeah, like she's definitely getting high, and like address the person about it, you know?
I mean, yeah. I think that is so crappy. And I think that that's why, you know, it turns a lot of people off. Like the fellowship turns a lot of people off because we preach, you know, support and community and together we can. But yet when somebody's relapsing, it's like, oh my God, everybody stop talking to them. Get away from them. It's like you're almost going to catch something from them, right? Like if you sit too close. And it's like, whoa, that is exactly the time when we have to lean in and like be there for those individuals. And even
like if you were there, like I was there once, that person was there once in the exact same.
Yeah, exactly. And not let that person isolate and even if that person is still in denial and saying like, no, I'm fine. It's like, look, just so you know, like I'm here and I'm watching you and like I got your back. Like if you get tired, whatever. But just don't turn your back on people if you see them struggling and like they're trying to get it together. I know there's also other people who get upset when some people get mad that they see people have a hard time staying sober and they feel like, you know what, I've helped that person so many times. Like, I'm just not going to keep doing this to myself. Yeah. And it's like, you never know when it's that time that it's going to click for that person. Like we've seen people go in and out of treatment 7, 6 times. And let's say the 8th time is when they get it and they got it and they live an amazing life, you know?
Right.
You don't know. So like, I hate when people like give up hope on other people because you just don't know.
Well, and you never know what someone's going through at that exact given time. I mean, they say don't judge a book by its cover, you know, just because someone appears to be doing fine inside, they may not be, you know, they may be doing really shitty.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to the comments real quick. Ken is saying, don't give up, give in. Exactly. Like instead of anything that makes you, and this is recovery, this is life, anything that makes you want to pull back is exactly like the stuff that you need to lean in on, right? Like instead of giving up, give in. If you want to like pull, you know, get away from the situation, get closer to the situation because you're like there's a fear there. And whatever that fear is not going to be dealt with unless you do face it and you do deal with it, whatever that is. So I agree with you, Ken. John Kinney says, immerse yourself in meetings, keep trying, progress, not perfection. Hi, Steve. Chuck says, we are in this together. That is correct.
Absolutely.
King says, relapse could be a trigger for someone else. It is. I actually remember a friend of mine, you know, we had reached out because somebody that we both knew had relapsed. And I reached out to my other friend thinking they could really help. And I'm like, so-and-so relapsed. Can you hook it up? Do you know somebody who can get him into treatment? And he did not want anything to deal with it. Right. You know, my first reaction was to get super mad at that friend because it's like, how could you? This is your friend, blah, blah, blah. But I had to respect his recovery. I had to respect who he was at.
And here's the thing, though, like he shouldn't be, if he doesn't feel comfortable and it feels triggered, like he needs to go tell someone else about it. Like that would be his responsibility to do.
I hope he did.
Yeah.
I hope he did because
person with someone else, like have someone be accountable with you. Especially I know like I've done what people call like 12-step calls where you're going to help someone who is drunk at a bar to get them into detox or, you know, whatever. Like you don't go to do that by yourself, because like left to my own devices, like I'm gonna end up in the bar with the person.
I've never done one of those. So like you physically go to somebody's house or wherever they're at, and it's like a mini intervention.
Yes, it's not technically not an intervention, but like, hey, like let's go to a meeting, or like I went with my friend one time to pick up this girl from a bar, and she was wasted, and we're like, okay, we need to get her into detox right now.
Okay.
And that's what we did. So, and it's just part of service.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I've heard of those. I've just never been in one myself.
Yeah.
Augustine says that it's better to have a conversation with people rather than gossip about them. Absolutely. Let's see who else.
Karen says, it took me so long to finally totally surrender and stay sober. I relapsed for years. Just never give up. As long as there's breath in your body, there's hope. All we have is today. Reach out for help and hold on for dear life. There is no shame in relapse. We are all an arm's length from a drink or a judge or a drug.
Yep. Or a judge. I'm just kidding. Mateo says hello from Philadelphia. He has 1 year clean and sober and 12 years of relapsing. We're glad you have the 1 year sober, and you are so welcome into this community. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. Teresa Collins says changing people and places was the biggest thing for me. Mm-hmm. Tanya said meetings helped her, getting numbers and reaching out.
Kevin says my number one problem was not wanting a new lifestyle or new friends. That's I think that you have to kind of, and we talked about the gift of desperation, right? I mean, you have to be desperate enough, and maybe, you could still keep some of those friends, but you set a boundary with them. What do you think about that?
Well, I didn't have that problem because nobody wanted to be my friend. I totaled my car and I didn't have any money. And guess what? Like they didn't want anything to do with me. I had nothing to offer them. So, which was such a gift to me because, I see the other side, which is people having a hard time saying no to their friends and having to say goodbye. For me, that was really easy because they didn't even want anything to do with me. So you just have to rebuild, but that doesn't take, the low self-esteem and feeling bad about yourself, and the embarrassment of knowing that these people don't want to deal with you because of the things you've done or because of what you don't have and because of who you are at that time, which is just an addict or an alcoholic. And it's horrible to have to live with that shame and to know that that's what you are. But it's such a dark place to be in. And even like in early recovery, when we start to see some hope, it takes a while to get out of that space, but we're so much more than that. And once we get out of that little bubble, just the world opens up and we learn that we're much more than the things that we're going through and what we suffer from. So it's just a matter of like hanging in there until that happens. But staying sober is not, for me, I always said getting sober is easier than staying sober.
I'm that too.
Yeah, like it's so easy but staying day after day after day, no matter what happens each of those days and staying consistent and not picking up, like that's really hard. And, again, people have tried it, they'll stop drinking for 5 days and then they'll drink again. And then they try moderation and that doesn't work. So, and there's people who try moderation successfully and that worked for them and never did for me.
No, oh God, never for me. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
For an hour. Yeah. But
yeah, never. Okay. Kevin's, he's the one that was saying about changing people, places and things.
Okay. Jerry, hold on. Jerry says, so not to sound condescending, but are we supposed to accept relapse as part of someone's program? We should support them, but working a program at some point, that should be unacceptable. Hold on. Do you understand?
I don't understand. Like, I'm going to understand the first part, but then I don't understand the last part of unacceptable. So
relapse, it doesn't have to be a part of doesn't have to be a part of someone's program. That's not what a program, a relapse is a relapse. I don't
think it's officially a part of anybody's program. I think it happens, to a lot of us. And I think that the two options is either you accept that happened to that individual or you don't accept it, which I don't know what that could look like. And but yeah, you should still support somebody who relapsed, and hope that they have access to things that will help them get better. I definitely don't think supporting them in, active addiction or stuff that's going to help them continue to relapse is healthy. But I don't know. I don't know if that made sense, Jerry. Like, if we didn't get it right, feel free to comment back and let us know if you missed it. Okay, let's see.
Marcy says, for me, I had to relocate at the beginning of 2019. So he just moved a couple months ago from Phoenix to quit using meth, and he packed up and started over in Lubbock, Texas. And now he's been off meth. He's a globetrotter. He's in Woodward, Oklahoma now, taking education classes with a counselor to address past habits. I like that. I think education is so important, especially in knowing ourselves and like knowing what our addicted brains have been through and like what is going on with us, right? I mean, at least I want to know what's going on with me, and I think education is so important, and I mean, no one can ever take that away from you.
Yeah. Vicky says more meetings, 2120, more chances. Oh no, that was probably the time she left it at. Never mind. More meetings, more chances. Few meetings, few chances. No meeting, no chances. Well said. Sorry, I ruined that for you, Vicky.
Okay, I'm gonna go to one of the comments on the polls.
Yeah, go to the poll comments.
So hold on, there was one I was gonna look at. This is a great story of never giving up. Francesca said she's been to rehab over 20 times. And now on July 2nd, she'll be blessed to have 1 year sober. Never give up, keep trying, your time will come. If she gave up, she would never be where she is. I mean, what the heck? That's a lot.
Imagine 20 times. Like, one can say 20, but can you imagine like packing your bags, going to treatment, getting out like one time, doing that like 20 times?
I really can't. I mean, I went a couple times, but not 20. Certainly not 20.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad that she finally got it and that she was like blessed enough to be able to make it back. She must have such a great story.
Right. And how brave, like, to post. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. Nobody should ever be embarrassed to post how many times they've asked for help. Like, nobody should ever be embarrassed of the fact that they ever needed help or that they had to seek help X amount of times. It doesn't matter. We're all different.
And that's what I love about this, us, like Sober Nation, everyone here. Everyone gets vulnerable. Anyway, that's me being a little sob, but I'm having a moment.
What else came back from the polls? Anything, any other stories?
Let's see. A lot of people wrote, one of the most popular ones was don't give up. And obviously that's a huge one. This person says, Mackenzie Walker says, unpopular opinion, but there are some of us who will never get it. I like to remind people that the recovery rate is less than 10%. By making an alcoholic feel like they can't do something, it has seemed to help some of my sponsees get it together. We are really good at doing the things people tell us we can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and she says there are some of us who will never get it. I don't believe that's true. I think everyone can, but I think some people just don't either want to or just aren't willing enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, or some people just don't have the chance, unfortunately. You know, the disease gets them first, right? Or like something happens first that, you know, even if they're trying. But there is something to be said about keeping it real and letting people know, like, yo, like, not everybody makes it out of this thing. And like, we're the lucky fews. I mean, seriously, everyone listening to this broadcast, everyone watching, we're all so lucky because it's every day we learn of someone, and 1 in 2 Americans know someone who's like struggling with opioids. So like, can you imagine, you know, everything else? And that's just opioids. Right. So it's a lot. Carol from the poll says, no advice could get me in or keep me in. I needed grace and willingness, not something I can create with my own will. I mean, that's something else. I'm not a big, and those of you who have been watching the show for a while know that I'm not a big, God person or anything, but I do believe that you have to have a power bigger than yourself to help you, because there are certain things that I don't and cannot do on my own. And even though I have the support of everybody around me, there are things that are one-on-one. And when I mean one-on-one, it's like between me and a higher power.
Right.
That's that. And despite the support that I'm getting from my network, from my husband, from whoever, until I get it right with my higher power, like, some things may not make sense. Some things that seem impossible become possible. Like, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. And I know that there's a lot of people watching who have had similar experiences, but I do think that if you've tried a few times, definitely pay attention to the things you have not tried before. Do it differently, do it all the way differently. And if, involving some sort of higher power is not, something you've tried, try it this time. It's like, fake it till you make it. It doesn't have to be right. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to pick a church. You don't have to get baptized. You don't have to do anything except be a little open, not just open-minded, but opening your heart to something different and to being kinder to yourself and allowing these things to take place in your life.
Wow, Veronica, you're on one tonight.
Being called to say those things. I don't know.
I love it, though. I mean, it's so true. Try different things. Go, I don't know, try meditating. Go on YouTube. Do guided meditation. There's so many different things, like so many different resources out there. But I want to read a comment. Ryan says, when I relapsed, I had it in my head that alcohol and drugs weren't an issue. Ryan, I did the same exact thing. I was like, well, like, I'm not an alcoholic. I, had just been to rehab like 3 times. And so, that denial was there. And then over time, things definitely got worse than they had ever been. And I know for me, it was not physically, but it was emotionally. Like, I was so empty inside. And I had to try something different,
Yeah. So, Daniel says, are you ladies familiar with Dr. Gabor Mate work on addiction? I've heard of some of his stuff, but I never read anything, so I can't comment on it.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about it.
Never read it, so.
Yeah. Let's see, but there's someone else, I think it was K.E. Rose, who said, my husband almost died from high blood pressure because of his drinking, but there was another one that she left my daughter struggling with heroin. So to you, like, what I have to say is you have to take care of you first. It sounds like you've been a caretaker to your husband and now you're concerned about your daughter. And that can be so painful to have a daughter or just a significant loved one in active addiction. So I would say take care of you first. Go to Al-Anon, Nar-Anon.
She's here,
Any meeting, go to if you can afford to, go to a therapist, go talk to someone, because if you're not okay, like, no one around you is going to be okay. Like, you can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of you. That's number one. And then there's just nothing we can't save our loved ones from addiction at all. Like, we can help them, get access to resources, access to treatment, and we can support their recovery, but we can't support their addiction. And sometimes, it gets very tricky because we do things thinking that we're helping them when in fact we're not. I don't like the word enabling. I don't like people calling people enablers. I think that's further like shaming them. So I totally get how difficult it is to have loved ones struggling. So my advice to you is take care of you first. And seek support for yourself, especially if you get into those fellowships. Like, you'll meet people who have been where you are and can give you advice on how to manage some of the situations that come up day to day with your loved ones.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Yeah.
It's just tough being so, you feel helpless, Well,
your mom is like an awesome, like, spokesperson for that. And we need to have your mom on one day.
She's probably watching right now. She's every week. She's like, what are you guys doing this week on Sober Nation? Like,
so embarrassing. We need to have your mom on because and not to put your stuff on blast, but I just really want the perspective of like a mom, because I know there's other moms and, we've had parents pop in and out of the show kind of asking questions. So I know they also need to be fed some information, and they need the support from everyone. You know, they not only need the support from like their fellowships or whatever, but they need our support, people who are in recovery, because then they can understand, even talking to people who are in recovery that can help them understand their children better. And I've watched some beautiful conversations happen with someone in recovery talking to a mom with a child in active addiction, and sort of talking her through, like, you know, what we're thinking when some of these situations happen. And that just helped her so much. She was like, oh my gosh, I never, you know. So I just encourage everybody to try to be, you know, always on the lookout for that parent around you, even if you don't know them, who's struggling, because I think that they're just in such a tough spot, you know.
Yeah, and, you know, if you think about it, if one person in one family is you know, using and addicted, and think about like all the it's that ripple effect, right? The mom, you got the mom, the dad, the brother, the sister, I mean, aunts, uncles, there's so many other people around, and even not just a parent, but a caregiver, you know, an aunt, an uncle. I mean, there's so many people than just when we are using that are affected, and most of the time we don't even realize it, you know, until we actually like can look at our life in the face and see what the hell we just did. So, you know, everyone knows someone that's like either been affected or addicted or in recovery.
I just saw a couple of comments that I want to mention. Mike says stress causes a lot of relapses. I agree. Stress is a trigger, a big trigger. And I think that that's why it's so important that even in recovery, stress needs to be managed, because stress, you know, anxiety, depression, all of those, you know, feelings and emotions, they can all lead us to relapse. And I think that we are all individuals who need to have sort of like a toolkit or a toolbox on how to deal with each one of these. And so like, if you know, like if you get stressed, you're going to want to do something, like just have a coping skill, have something you can do to attack that, and then just keep it moving and think about something else. Because if you notice, the more that we think about something, the more that thought just keeps growing, that obsession. And then before we know it, we picked up. So anything you can do to prevent yourself from getting into like that thinking, like pattern, like just get out of that, try not to get, because once you get in your head, it's over. Like get busy, do something else, have a toolkit, call someone, get out of your house, get out of your room, get out of your head. Right. It's just, it's true. Stress can definitely do it to you.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Desiree, and this is like a little bit off. Desiree is asking, what do we think about Suboxone? There's probably another like Facebook Live. We just posted an article about that though.
Yeah.
So, I think whatever works for you. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be really clear right now, and I know people are going to get mad at me. I think that everyone who is shaming people for taking medication to get sober should be ashamed of themselves. Like nobody should be shaming people who are taking Suboxone. Nobody should be shaming people who are taking methadone. Right now, in case you hadn't noticed, we're in the middle of a huge crisis, and medication-assisted treatment is called harm reduction, right? Like we prefer for people to be medicated on something than to be losing them. These people are family members. They're someone's child. I can't tell you how many parents have said, you know, if I wouldn't have given my daughter such a hard time about her being on Suboxone, maybe she'd still be here. You know, if I hadn't given my friend or my brother so much shit about him being on whatever, you know, they may still be here.
Right.
And I get choked up because it makes me so angry. Like it makes me so mad. Like how dare people, you know, judge others for what? Like for what? Like why are people judging other people on what they're taking? Like you weren't judging them when they were taking, you know, heroin, when they were taking other things. I mean, like I just don't understand. And I think it's so lame for people to put down other people. Like, yeah, we know it's not full abstinence. And yes, full abstinence is the goal. And I think that everybody has their own journey. And I think that hopefully they're working with professionals that are having them take these medications, but that are also suggesting or making sure that they're receiving support from a counselor, that they're going to groups, that they're going to meetings. These medications alone do not work. They do not work. If you just take the medication and you think that you're going to be in recovery, that is not recovery. Recovery is taking this medication, going to meetings, going to, making those changes in your life. Like, I just get so upset when I see people, making fun of people or shaming people for being. And because, you know why I get mad? Because they only do it to make themselves seem better. They do it out of ego. They don't do it because they care for that person. They don't do it because of whatever. That's what makes me super mad about that. And I'm sorry, I just have to take a sip.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just going to drink some tea over here.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I can't even say anything else after that.
I'm just so over it. Like, people are just so fake, and I'm so over it. And it's like, yes, ideally, so here's the deal. So ideally right now, Suboxone is being used on a protocol that should last anywhere from 17 to 14 days. Okay, so this is what happens. They're tapered down 17 to 14 days in detox. They then discharged either home, or they go into inpatient setting. They go into the inpatient setting. That's probably going to be abstinence only. That probably doesn't even support Vivitrol, which is something that should be considered. Or they're going to go back out into the streets and maybe go to a few meetings, whatever. But nobody is taking care of the fact that these people are going to still under acute withdrawal. Right. That means that they're going to continue to have cravings for this medication that are not going to be controlled just by doing yoga or just by praying or just by whatever, because their brain has already been changed and it needs this medication in order to function. So 7 to 14 days is just not enough. It's not realistic. Now, what I do have an issue with is people who put people on Suboxone for years and years on out and don't work on a plan to taper them off eventually. Don't put a plan together where, they go to meetings or they're following up whether or not they're seeing a therapist. Those are all things that need to go along with the medication. So, I don't know.
But okay, don't you think that the people who are shaming people, they just haven't been educated?
I don't know. I just think, sometimes we go to meetings and we hear people in meetings talk and, it sounds amazing and it sounds like it makes sense. And they just decide you know what, I'm subscribing to this. So the next time somebody brings this up, this is just what I'm going to say.
Right.
But I don't know that they've given it, much thought. I also don't think that they're willing to have these conversations with an open mind and an open heart. I think that they get, and this goes with anything in recovery, people get so defensive about the way that they've done it, right? We can even use the example of people who just go to meetings and the people that don't. There's people that say going to meetings is the only way. And there's people who say I never gone to a meeting and I'm still clean and sober.
You're definitely not sober. You've never been to a meeting. Yeah. What are you talking about?
So we have this thing of if you don't do it my way, if you're not really in recovery. And it's where the fuck did that come from?
Right.
Where? Who made that up? Where is that rule? And if anything, I'm learning that there are no rules, that is very individual and that is what works for different people. A lot of people have been through a lot of stuff. A lot of people have a lot of trauma. A lot of people have, are dealing with just some really messed up stuff. So you can't tell me, oh, just, cold turkey this, do that, and not seek other kind of support. There are people who are in active addiction who hold really high paying jobs. If they stop working, they're not able to support their family. So what are they? Maybe they need to get Suboxone so they can continue to go to work. Maybe they can't afford to go to treatment for 30, 60, 20 times, and they need to stay at work and take Suboxone. Because you're not gonna support, this person's family. Nobody complaining.
Probably give them a check. Other people's families too. If I don't know.
So I don't know. I just think, it's a shame that people feel that they can speak on somebody else's path, and say that theirs is better than. And by the way, what does anybody gain saying my way is better than yours? Does anybody, because if people are winning prizes for this, let me know. Maybe I'm missing out on an iPad or, earbuds or something, because I just don't understand. I thought the whole goal was for us to get better together. And then this is when we get into the hypocrisy part of this thing, right? Like when we start seeing people really like, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. You know, if you in fact care about everybody, you wouldn't turn their back when they relapse. If you in fact care about everybody, you wouldn't look down on them if they had to take had to take Suboxone this morning in order to not get sick, because they need to go show up to a job, because they need to take care of their children and they have their children home with them, versus the alternative of them, like, you know, committing a crime, going to jail, getting their kids taken away. I mean, it's a shit show. And so like, you know, it's just so like, I'm so over it. Just like the whole dinosaur mentality of like, oh, you know, like it's this way or no other way. Come on. I'm sorry. I'm getting so.
No, please. Like I literally can't say anything. And everybody in the comments is telling you is saying preach. So, and agree with you. So,
it just makes me so mad.
Yeah.
Like it makes me so mad that anyone should feel like they have the right to comment on how someone's doing it, what somebody's doing, what are they taking, what are they not taking, did they do this? And you notice that the people that are doing that, it's like, where is your recovery? Take your own inventory. Don't take mine. Right. Like, because at the end of the day, you're not paying my bills. If let's say I do check into rehab, are you going to be paying my rehab bill? No, a lot of us didn't have the luxury. I didn't get to go to rehab. You know, I had to get clean in the rooms, and thank God that I found rooms to get clean in. But that's not everyone, you know. Some people
have this mentality. Did you ever have? I just want to know. Did you ever have a mentality of that, like MAT is not sober, or because I know for me, maybe a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, like I didn't do it that way. You know, like if someone does it that way, they're not sober. But time after time, you know, I know in the Northeast, it's a big thing. I've been up there and seen people that they call, I mean, and every treatment center up there does MAT. And I've just been a little more educated now, and I get it. And I think that is what another huge thing with this opioid crisis is people don't understand. And for so long, they have done it one way, where this is fairly new, right? A fairly new type of modality. So maybe in 50 years, people will start accepting it more.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. Like, I remember, so I came up like in South Florida, where we know like the recovery capital, whatever. And, you know, recovery in the rooms is very traditional, and they don't consider, I mean, I'm not going to speak for them today, but from the days that I was really active, you know, they did consider MAT not being sober, you know. And then I remember being on a business trip with and I met someone, and they had been on MAT, taking Suboxone for like 5 years. And that blew my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know you could take it that long. But here he was at a professional convention, like doing his thing, you know, being a productive member of society. So, you know, I think very early on, I thought like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is not sober 100%. But then when I started people watching and thriving and watching them and thriving, it completely changed my mind. And the more and more I learned about it, it's just like the more conversations I've had too with people who work at these facilities is like, look, we have people who come in here who are doctors, they're nurses, they're, you know, they have like all these different positions, and it's like they're everywhere. And then you don't know that they're taking Suboxone, right. Nor should you have to. But there's a lot of people who are out there being productive members of society. Like, what would the alternative of that be? Like, them on the streets, like, you know, your kids, you know, not getting tended to in a hospital, like not having enough nurses, not having, you know, this individual provide a service. Like, it has such a major impact in the community, in our communities, like not having this medication available now. Do I think is the save, you know, do I think it's going to save that? Absolutely not. You know, I think that is pretty foul that, like, you know, magically, like this horrible medication gets put out, and then magically we also have the like cure. You know, I think it's all like this whole big pharma, you know, scheme. But I think at the end of the day, we take medication for other diseases. Why not take medications to bring us, you know, and there's other medications besides besides Suboxone that are very effective and that don't produce, that are not hard to get off of, like Vivitrol and things of that nature. So, I mean, there's a lot of options, and I pray there are more and more options. We really don't have a lot of recovery research. We have a lot of the research that we have out there comes from big pharma. It doesn't come from, people who have been living in recovery and how they got there. So, and I know that there are people working on that as we speak. So it's a very new field when you really think about it. So I'm interested to see like what will happen in the future and what the developments will be. But again, at the very least, the least we could do as a community is not be shitty to the people who are taking MAT. Mm-hmm. That's the least we could do, because there, by the grace of God, goes you.
Absolutely. Preach.
And I just dropped the mic and I'm gonna go. I'm just kidding. What are the comments saying?
I'm so confused about this one comment, but I don't want to read it. Okay, that's why Shelly has over 6 years sober.
Okay,
congrats, Shelly. The problem is okay. Crescentress says the problem is many people abuse Suboxone, and those people give it all a bad rep.
Wait, what?
Crescentress says the problem is many people abuse Suboxone, and they give it a bad rep.
How so?
I don't know. I don't know if that's, I mean, yes, I think some people do abuse Suboxone, but not everybody.
Anything can be abused, right? Like anything can be abused. Like gabapentin has been abused now. Like now that's like a thing. Like there's so much that can be abused that, says more about the person than anything, and like, yeah, there's abuse potential with Suboxone, that they're very clear about that you can become addicted to it. It's actually really difficult to come off. It's even more difficult than actual opiates, and I know from working at a treatment center back in the day that, yeah, they'd be, those withdrawals were worse than regular like opiate withdrawals. So it also depends how long you were on. So it's really hard to come off of Suboxone as it is. So you're kind of like buying time. Like you're gonna detox at some point. You're sort of just buying time with Suboxone is what it seems like, and feeling normal until you do, except that you're not sticking a needle in your arm. You're not putting yourself, in danger. You're just buying yourself some time until that day that you're gonna get really sick when you decide to get rid of all.
I really wish people in the comments would be, I'm starting to get kind of pissed. So
what happened?
Nothing. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Karen. And that's the tea. All right.
I don't know what's going on.
Chris takes Antabuse, and he says it's been a godsend. Any way you can get sober. I agree with you, Chris. I mean, I took naltrexone for a while, and a couple of years ago, and it was like just another treatment. That's what it was. Cuffy has been 27 years sober, and they say, please be tolerant, because some of the comments are blowing up. So please be respectful. That's all I'm going to say to everyone in the goddamn comments. Okay.
What are they saying?
I don't want to give a voice to this type of negativity in here.
Okay, cool. So people are basically in the comments saying that they cannot have a conversation about a topic without getting ignorant or like getting worked up or getting triggered by it. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, well,
I can.
This has been great.
Yeah, because I feel, even though like this conversation turned into MAT, which wasn't, I feel like it did fit because it talked about, people who failed time and time again. So if MAT is the next step for you, and that's something you feel you need to try, or something you talk to your doctor about, that's totally on you. That's a decision of you and a medical provider, not anybody on this Facebook thread. And but yeah, my beef is with the people who shame other people.
Yeah.
So if you have beef with me because I have beef, then that's cool. I'm so cool with that.
Well, you know, and this person may be just a little uneducated, a little ignorant right now, but we can educate them. I'm not going to judge them. All right. That's the tea.
Yeah, no, but just so you guys know, if it does get straight disrespectful, like just don't be surprised if you never are able to find like this page ever again. Because we don't tolerate that. Like nobody deserves that, and nobody needs to like be, you know, disrespected in any kind of way. Like we're here on our own time to hang out, to provide a service. So if it's that deep and you feel like you need to be hurtful, then, you know, we'll make a decision to remove you, and that's that. And, or if not, if you don't like it here, if something we have said doesn't vibe with you, this is not the kind of community you want to be around, we also invite you to get the fuck out. Simple.
You don't have to be here. I mean, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we love you guys.
Yes, we do. There's so many of you who show up all the time.
I know. It's my favorite night of the week. So
what do you want to talk about next week?
I don't know.
The issue of smoking has been coming up a lot. Smoking after meetings, whether or not we should smoke.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I feel like this was like a good topic starter for like segueing into that.
Okay. We could, yeah, I don't know. Let us know if there's something you want to talk about next for next week. Again, we've been kind of on side conversations about recovery and smoking cigarettes. For some of us, it kind of was like,
or like vaping too. We can talk about that.
What?
Vaping, you know, like the Juul.
Vaping. We could talk about regular smoking, but we were talking about how smoking became like, this is the one substance we have left that is okay to like still use, and I can't give up my cigarettes because this is what makes me happy. So yeah. So I get the struggle. I quit smoking like 2 years ago, and I know you're still smoking, and it took me a long time to quit and a lot of tries. So I know how difficult it is, and you know, but I don't know. Some people may get mad on that episode too. So,
well, you know what? These are things we have to talk about. So
I agree.
You know, I have a long story of smoking and people in my family with lung cancer, and like I still smoke, and like it's so hard to quit. So I think it's a little harder than like when I got sober, honestly, because it's acceptable. Anyway, we're getting into that topic now. We need to cut it.
Yeah, I know. I feel like talking about that topic now, but it's top of the hour anyway. Time for us to wrap this up. So if you want to write for Sober Nation, if you want to share your anniversary date and want us to post it, we can certainly do that. Make sure you submit that to Tori or upload it to the Sober Since section on our website, and we will get you up there.
Or email me, send us a message. My email is Tori, Tori, @sobernation.com. Bam.
Boom. And if you guys, again, know another topic idea you want to talk about, share with us again on the comments or via email. And we will see you guys around next week.
Bye.